I'm saying each and every one of them cannot say definitively 100% I will be employed by the Philadelphia Eagles after the cutdown, because they're weak at this. This has become their new linebacker. When they were skating by with everybody on the team being an undrafted free agent, whether it was T.J. Edwards or Nate Gary or Duke Riley or whatever. This is now their new linebacker. It's a position that they have ignored so much in the draft. And listen, that's because they prioritize O-line, D-line. It's worked out for them. But they've ignored it so much that they've left themselves in great peril at the position.
With my bud and partner, John McMullen, I'm Jody McDonald. Joining us now, pulling in his chair, not going anywhere like our first guest. Good to have him locked in and ready to rock and roll for the next 20, 25 minutes, is Geoff Mosher from Inside the Birds, podcast.com, and the like. If you didn't log in, you might not have been watching this before you logged in. McMullen threw down the gauntlet. He basically said Geoff Mosher's got no chance to win the contest.
That is not true,
53-man roster. Because if the only way I could possibly lose is if the athletic guy beats me again. But other than that, no one else has a shot.
Completely untrue. He's trying to start the media.
No, listen, I concede. I concede to Bo Wolf, and you and Bo own that thing.
Yeah.
So I'm jumping on your bandwagon. I'm going on record right now saying that I think Geoff Mosher is going to win the contest.
I did brag about one thing, that I understand roster construction, and that's where Jody went with it. But Bo is the defending, I think, 3-time champion, which I won the year before that.
Does John Heyman come out and introduce him before you guys hand in all your contests? That's a wrestling reference that I thought McMullen would.
Paul Heyman.
He's looking at me like, what the hell
John
are you
Heyman's
talking
the
about?
baseball insider.
The reigning, undefended, undisputed champion of the roster contest, Bo Wolf.
Now, it's funny you say that, Jody, because when I was the champion, I got Paul Heyman to tweet out that entrance for me. I got him to do it because Paul follows me. So I got him to do it, and then I got too cocky and I lost to Bo Wolf. So that's what happens. But
and I might be getting too cocky by jumping on the Mosher bandwagon. I got faith in you, Geoff Mosher. It's all you this year, buddy.
I appreciate it. I listen, I do have a claim to fame for a 53-man roster projection. I don't think John was with us yet on the beat at that time, but I did accurately predict a player once to make the Eagles 53 when he wasn't even on the Eagles.
There we go. Now that's impressive. That's impressive. Who was that?
So he was a safety, short safety that was playing for the Browns at the time. And because the Browns were coached by Pat Shurmur and the Eagles were so bad at safety, and boy, the more things change, the more they stay the same. They were so. I wound up looking around rosters of teams that I knew had some connection to Andy Reid. And so Pat Shurmur's team, I called a few people trying to get an idea of who might get cut, and there was I wish I could remember his name now. He was a great story. I think he played at Iowa State. He was a rookie free agent safety.
You know everything about this guy but his name.
So I put him on the Eagles 53. I said, this guy's going to get cut, and the Eagles are going to claim him.
Yeah, that's always impressive because the Eagles are going to claim somebody. You know that. And I look at running back, I look at tight end, I look at safety. As well as the most likely positions, which is why you have to have all these rules. So we basically bogged it down to the initial 53. Right. And there's more strategy now, most because of the expanded practice squad.
Sure.
Last year, I was telling Jody, it became a trend in the league to cut your long snapper, and especially if he's a veteran, so he doesn't have to go through waivers. The Eagles did it last year with Rick Lovato. So you wink him and say, we need to keep this guy on the initial 53, and then you bring back your long snapper. You're going to see that happen all over the league.
Right.
But I do look
then they put Tyree Jackson on PUP the next day, right? I think that's how it went. They just wanted to be able to keep Tyree, right? I mean, there's a lot of maneuvering that goes on.
Yeah. And on Tuesday, so Marcus Epps was out with a back injury. And by the way, we all act like Marcus Epps is some proven commodity.
So funny. I said that today on the podcast. Yep.
Yeah. It's amazing. But the Eagles don't know what to do. He's out for one practice, and they're trying Josiah Scott. They're trying Reed Blankenship. They go back to Kayvon Wallace. All three players got first-team reps. Is this a bigger problem than people realize, the safety position?
So I'll just tell you guys exactly how I phrased it today on the podcast that dropped this morning. I echoed your sentiment that Marcus Epps is their best safety, their best coverage safety at least, which in nowadays game makes you a best safety, but he hasn't even started a full season yet. So he's sort of a question mark from that regard. Every other safety after Marcus Epps, and there's a lot of them now, Anthony Harris, Jaquiski Tartt, Andre Chachere, all the way to the new guy that they just added, Ugo Amadi. All of them should be looking at themselves and saying, I'm not 100% sure I have a job with the Philadelphia Eagles when that cut down happens. And I'm not, Adam, his eyes open. I didn't say they're all getting cut. I'm saying each and every one of them cannot say definitively 100% I will be employed by the Philadelphia Eagles after the cut down, because they're weak at this. This has become their new linebacker when they were skating by with everybody on the team being an undrafted free agent, whether it was T.J. Edwards or Nate Gary or Duke Riley or whatever. This is now their new linebacker. It's a position that they have ignored so much in the draft. And listen, that's because they prioritize O-line, D-line. It's worked out for them. But they've ignored it so much that they've left themselves in great peril at the position.
Mosher,
and Howie Roseman is the type of guy to make an aggressive move when he needs to. And if he makes an aggressive move, it's not going to be to add another mid-level guy. It's going to be someone to put next to Marcus Epps, I would think. And that leaves everybody not named Marcus Epps and anyone Howie brings in as like, oh, am I going to make this team or not?
If I said to you that Josiah Scott might have more roster confidence making right now because of his versatility than any of the other just pure safeties, would you agree with me?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think when you look at what the Eagles intend to do, and again, some of that's still a question mark, but Gannon's background, some of the coaches he's been with, the league trending toward pattern matching, mirror and match coverage. Some teams like really big, tall guys. Seattle is always like the taller safeties, the bigger guys. But teams that do pattern matching, mirror matching, they just want almost 5 or 6 cornerbacks out there. They want guys who can run and cover. So Josiah Scott is a guy who, as you just mentioned, Jody, he's played outside corner, he's played inside nickel, and now they're working him out at safety. So that versatility will help. If the season ended today, the preseason ended today, I think he's definitely on the team.
To Jeff's point, though, I mean, the Eagles just traded for Ugo Amadi, as you mentioned, who plays nickel, safety, special teams, just like Josiah Scott. So at least if you're Josiah Scott, you have to say, well, have I not impressed these guys as much as I think? Because they bring in a mirror player. Now, granted, late addition, but still the 4 most important practices coming up. And you even brought up Anthony Harris. Your point, if this Chuck Clark trade happens all of a sudden, maybe Anthony Harris is out of here.
Yeah, because Anthony Harris, I think,
is a starter.
Right.
He's not playing special teams. Yeah.
Sure.
So if they make that splash move, Jeff's right. Now that was a good point. I give him credit. Probably the only safety that can sleep comfortably at night and can put his name in pen on the roster is Marcus Epps. That's kind of amazing this late in the summer.
Since you touched on him, and I've been meaning to bring him up for 3 days now. Shame on me. I had Vinny Serrato on my show on CBS Sports Radio, former NFL executive who does talk shows down in Baltimore, pretty tied in with the Ravens. They're keeping all 3 of their safeties. They think they can play all 3 of them together. I know John and I talked about it as soon as the draft pick went down and the Ravens added another safety. We said, let's get our hands on Chuck Clark. He'd be a great. They don't need 3 starting safeties, so we've only been talking about it since April. But when I had Vinny on Sunday, he says, oh, no, they're going to rotate those 3 guys. He thinks they can get all 3 on the field at the same time.
Well, you can. I mean, the Eagles have been playing 3 safety looks since Jim Schwartz was here, since they had who's the guy that came over from Baltimore? Corey Graham, right? I mean, that's kind of the big nickel or big dime, whatever you want to call it, has been a feature that they've used before and with success. And like I said, a lot of teams, and it's not surprising to hear that about the Ravens, because they're one of those teams that likes guys that can run and cover in the back end, and would rather have you be a coverage guy than a big hard hitter.
But I can't shake the feeling, Jeff, that, the first real move the Eagles tried to make in free agency was Marcus Williams, who was on the Ravens. They wanted him. They wanted him badly.
Yep.
So that, we always talk about, don't listen to what a team says, watch what they do. That was a clear indication the Eagles knew we have to get better at safety, and they haven't been able to get better at safety. I understand they wanted Jordan Davis, so I understand why they looked in a different direction than Kyle Hamilton. The Honey Badger, I don't necessarily disagree with that, because I think he's a descending player. They didn't want to get in a bidding war there. Plus, he probably wanted to go home. So I don't have a problem there. Jaquiski Tartt has done nothing. He has not taken one first team rep, Jeff. Now, if you told me before camp Jaquiski Tartt would take no first team reps, and oh, by the way, Anthony Harris missed time with COVID and a dental issue, and then Marcus Epps missed time, and he gets no first team reps, I would have said, you're nuts. You're crazy.
Yep.
No. Yep. They need to get better at safety. They seem to know it, and they can't do it. So, bottom line, your final prediction, is another shoe going to drop come the cut down to 53?
I believe there. I believe
trade.
will. Yeah, I think it will. I think it'll probably be a more aggressive move than a waiver claim, unless somebody gets put on waivers that's surprisingly good or really fits the defense. I don't think it's going to be Jesse Bates. I'm sure you guys have talked about it a million times, but I'll just add that I don't believe it's Jesse Bates, because I don't believe there's anything to gain by trading for somebody who has to play the year on the franchise tag, financially and from a leverage standpoint. So I would really doubt that that's the move. But, I couldn't have seen I knew the Eagles needed a corner in 2017, but I didn't see the Ronald Darby move coming. So you just never know who's at. You have to kind of go look at safeties who are probably 3 years in and maybe good enough to be a starter, but not good enough to get an extension from whatever team they're at, or there's a new coaching change. That's what really happened to Ronald Darby. They went from a team that played predominantly man to a team that played predominantly zone. So they just felt like that. And plus they had Tre'Davious White coming up. They felt like Ronald Darby is someone that they can move on from. And so the irony of that year, right, John and Jody, is that, Ronald Darby was such a necessary a need for the Eagles, who were so bad at corner. At that point, they had like Ron Brooks and Jalen Mills and Jalen Watkins.
Ron
was
Brooks.
Playing.
Love it.
I mean,
Love
we went through this on the pod. All the guys, that it was not good there. And then they get Ronald Darby, and then what happens? He gets hurt in the season opener, and he misses 10 games. So the guy that you thought the Eagles absolutely needed to be successful misses 10 games. They go 9-1. Who would have thought, right? Who would have thought?
Yeah, well, that year was. I remember Patrick Robinson.
Oh yeah,
was so bad in camp. So this is a cautionary tale for everybody. I've been talking about Kenny Gainwell has not impressed me in camp this year. Patrick Robinson was just terrible, to the point you might have been there, Mose. He did that sort of
I was there. It was bad.
Press conference inside right inside the door.
Yep.
And he looked like he was ready to have a nervous breakdown. He was. I
remember him talking about how hot it was.
Yeah. And he was just terrible. And all of a sudden, the regular season shows up. He's the best slot corner in football the entire year. It was amazing. The year he had, culminating in the NFC Championship game. Yeah.
You know the expression in baseball, when a pitcher's struggling, they say you run into the bat rack just to go hit off of them. You saw like fringe wide receivers, guys who could not run, just couldn't wait to get into one-on-ones against Patrick Robinson.
Yeah.
Could not wait. But I think the move, it wasn't just a finger snap, right? It's sort of the Nelson Aguilar impact on defense. Once they moved him away from the outside and into the slot, again, because they acquired Ronald Darby, it seemed like that was such a perfect move to get him in a position where he was suited to succeed.
Yeah.
Most out of the 4 undefeated joint practices the Eagles had last year, how many were you in attendance for?
I think one. I think just one. Yeah.
In that one practice, was there anything that jumped out at you? different than you go to practice all the time and the drills that they work on, how they run a practice. You're doing it against someone else, Sirianni's way of doing it and handling it. Was there anything that you jumped out that you'll specifically keep in the back of your mind and say, all right, I got to see if they do that again this year, because it was something that may have tipped you to the kind of year the Eagles were going to have?
Oh, that's a tough one. I don't even remember what I had for lunch yesterday or breakfast this morning, and I just had breakfast.
But you remember these non-needed Eagle DBs from 2017. You can remember that.
Yeah, I do. How's Randall Goforth doing these days? No, nothing that jumped out at me. I always say that the value in these, Jody, are that you come across games, right? And like, for example, take the preseason opener. The Eagles scored a touchdown. There was no 3rd or 4th and 1. There was no goal line situation. So these practices, you're able to script and get in situations that you want to be able to master and be good at for the season, but may not have that opportunity to do in a preseason game, especially when you're only playing one series. And who knows if Nick's going to play his starters in any of these next 2 games anyway. So it might have been one and done. So that's why I like these practices. My best memory of joint practices, Jody, is like 5. And John will remember this when they practiced against the Patriots and Tom Brady was still there. And you just never saw the ball hit the ground. It was unbelievable. And 1-on-1, 7-on-7s, 11. The ball just never hit the ground ever, compared to what I think was that Carson's first year?
Yeah, that was one of I'm glad you brought that up, Moshe. That is one of my favorite stories ever. The Eagles were doing 1-on-1, so receivers against defensive backs on the far field for anybody who's ever been at the NovaCare complex. So we're able to stand on the side, and it's as close as you can get to the players, as close as you can get, your feet away. And I never heard so many expletives in my life. Every Eagles defensive back coming back, shaking their head, saying, F this, F that. Brady was unbelievable. I've been going to too many football practices for too many years, and they get boring. Yes. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen anything like the accuracy. It was unbelievable. And I don't think I'll ever see anything like that again, to be honest. But getting back to the joint practice format, Jeff, the Eagles were undefeated last year, but I think a lot of that had to do, and Jody will know, same old Jets, just the Jets.
Right.
The Patriots had Cam Newton, who was struggling mightily at the time. Mac Jones was obviously a rookie quarterback. This time, they're on the road, which should help. Cleveland's really talented roster. Miami's really talented roster. Yes. They've done a good job. These practices, it's going to be a little bit tougher for them. Do you think that's valuable to face teams that talented, even if you lose, put that in quotations, to joint practice?
Absolutely. 100%. Look, the way training, more so now, John, than ever, because of the way teams have scaled back at practice, on hours, on contact, on pads, on everything. You really don't get the same level of competition, no matter how much the coaches try to tell you there's a lot of great competition and guys are out there sweating. Yeah, they are. But that's all in comparison. What they did 5 years ago and 10 years ago and 15 years ago is nothing close to what they do now. So that's why I like joint practices now. I think it's an opportunity for both sides of the ball to see something new, something different. And again, they can do an entire goal line drill, third down drill, red zone drill, and get first, second, third team reps against a formidable opponent at all 3 levels, first, second, third team, that they would not get in a game. Think about it from this way. We know that in the preseason games, which the worlds are watching, there's tape, there's all 22 available, that play callers, offensive and defensive, they get very vanilla. Like, you go back and watch the Jets. The Jets stayed in their cover 3. I mean, they played 7 men in the box. No wonder why the Eagles passed the ball all around. It's like the Jets were defending second or third and 1 the entire game. They really didn't try to do anything. So the Eagles threw the ball a lot. That in joint practices, when there's nobody watching and the tape doesn't go out, these coordinators and play callers will dial up their best stuff. They're trying to test their units versus another unit. So I think it's even a better way to prepare a team for what they'll see in the regular season than nowadays a preseason game would do.
All right, last thing for me. David Sims.
David Sims, the safety from Iowa State. Yes, that's the guy. I put him on my 53,
nice
and he was on it.
Yeah.
Yep, he got claimed.
And Randall Goforth, I guess, is having lunch right now with Nate Metters. That would be my guess.
Okay,
Yeah,
there you go.
You guys are throwing out some names that are going right over my head. I got to be honest. I had to go to Google to figure out David Sims, Iowa State. Safety, Browns. I had to put a whole bunch of things in there just to come up with David Sims. And then when I saw a name, I go, oh, that's right. Little guy, David Sims. That's exactly who it is.
Yeah.
I have to say, of my long journalism career, that might be the pinnacle.
That's it. That is always impressive. When you can pick a waiver wire pickup, you're doing a good job.
A waiver wire guy before he's on the team to make the team. He's still a member of the other team.
Yeah,
that
should be a bullet. That should be bullet point 1 on the resume. Geoff Mosher.
Second level thinking right there, fellas.
All right, most new pod dropped today. Where can the Eagle fans listen to the latest podcast?
Yeah, anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Amazon, Spotify. We're on every single major podcast platform. You can even find the written aggregated version on InsideTheBirds.com with some other content that we've had from practices. And we have a YouTube channel, of course, Inside the Birds on YouTube. You can watch the podcast if you actually want to watch me and Adam for an hour.
Well, some people watch me and Jody, so
every single day. We get in front of a camera every single day, which, as you can tell right here in this street shot, one of the three of us had some color, and it's not me and McMullen. So I'm guessing the YouTube show looks just fine.
Well, you spend all that time
Always a pleasure,
at the
bud.
beach.
You know we're going to get you on as soon as the season gets underway. Thanks for doing it with us today.
You got it, guys. Have a good one.